So this one is classified paper 4 questions from topic 2 at atoms, elements, compounds, and bonding. Potassium react with chlorine to form a potassium chloride. Write a chemical equation. So first potassium, because potassium is a metal. So how the metal exists as an atom. Good. And how the non-metal exists as a molecule except for group 8 and for group 4. So it will be Cl2. And as a result, it will produce potassium chloride. So how for a compound, potassium chloride formula is given. So it will be K. First thing, whenever you're writing an equation, you don't have to balance from the beginning. You can write first the equation K plus Cl2 gives KCl, the product. But now we have to balance. We have 2 chlorine, so we put 2. So chlorine is balanced. And then we put 2. Potassium is also balanced. Metal exists as an atom and the non-metal exists as a molecule except for group 8 and for group 4. Like if there was a carbon, then we won't write as a molecule. We write as an atom like C. The next is the potassium chloride is an ionic compound. So look, first, the best way to do such question is to write the configuration of the element. So potassium is 2, 8, 8 and 1. And for chlorine, the configuration is 2, 8 and 7. So where in ionic compound, the metal tend to lose electron and non-metal will gain. So this electron will be lost. So potassium will lose the valence shell electron and the chlorine will gain that electron. So it will be 8 electron in the outer shell of the chlorine. And in these 8 electrons of the chlorine, because the dots are representing the chlorine electrons, so 7 dots belongs to chlorine and 1 cross that it took from the potassium. And the net charge on the chlorine should be -1. And because the potassium lose 1, so the net charge will be +1. This is ionic structure of potassium chloride. The next is the molten potassium chloride undergo electrolysis. The term electrolysis means it's a breakdown of molten, or you have to mention because it's of 2 mark and I already shared with you the standard definition. So breakdown of a compound or process of passing current through a molten or aqueous ionic substance. So breakdown of a molten or aqueous compound by the passage of electricity or by passing electricity. If we are doing the electrolysis of molten potassium chloride, so we have a potassium ion and we have a chloride ion. The potassium ions are positive. And then chloride ions are negative. So potassium ion will move towards cathode. And the equation will be potassium ion will take electron and form a potassium metal. And chlorine will move towards the anode. When chloride ion move, it will form a chlorine atom and electron. But when 2 chloride ions are there, they will produce chlorine gas and loses 2 electron. So this is a oxidation, is a loss of electrons. So this is oxidation. And this one is a reduction, which is a gain of electron. So potassium and chlorine are the elements. You just have to name the element, not the equation. Then opposite is done. Now we have a concentrated aqueous potassium chloride. So we have concentrated aqueous potassium chloride. What are the ions present? It contains sodium ion. It contains a potassium ion. It contains chloride ion. It's an aqueous, so it contains H ion and OH ion. So for positive ion, we always check the reactivity, which is less reactive here. Hydrogen is less reactive. So hydrogen will move towards the cathode, the negative terminal. So when hydrogen ion will move there, it will gain an electron and form hydrogen atom. But because hydrogen is a non-metal, so when 2 hydrogen ion, they gain 2 electron and form a hydrogen gas. So there will be bubbles. For negative ion, we check. Here they ask for name the product, so we are not supposed to write the equation. We just have to write a chlorine here. For a negative ion, we check the amount because they mentioned it is concentrated. So means it contains more salt and less water. So the chloride ion will move towards the anode. So when chloride ion will move there, it will form a chlorine atom and electron will be lost. But because it's a non-metal, the non-metal exists as a molecule. So two chloride ion will loses two electrons and it will form a chlorine gas. Then name the compound, because as you can see, the hydrogen is being removed or discharged. It's not like 100% hydrogen, but most of the hydrogen discharged and most of the chlorine is removed. So what we are left with, we are left with potassium plus 1 and hydroxide minus 1. So it will be potassium hydroxide solution will be there as a remaining electrolyte. Complete the dot and cross diagram for a chlorine molecule. So dot and cross for a chlorine, like we have two chlorine atoms. Chlorine belongs to group 7, so share 1 electron and unshared electron will be 6 of them. The next is the melting point and the boiling points are shown for a chlorine. The melting and boiling points are very low, but for potassium chloride, so deduce the temperature, deduce the physical state. How to deduce the physical state? Physical state of a substance before the melting point, it is solid. Between the melting and the boiling point, the substance is liquid, and after the boiling point, the substance is a gas. So we wanted minus 75. So where we get a minus 75? The minus 75 will be between the melting and the boiling point. So this substance will be liquid. So it won't be a gas, because how to identify the state of a substance? Before its melting point, the substance is solid. Between the melting and the boiling point, the substance is liquid. And after the boiling point, the substance is a gas. So when we check the temperature, the melting point is 101 and the boiling point is minus 35. We want the state at minus 75. So at minus 75, which range will get? Like we have minus 101, then minus 100, minus 99. So minus 75 will be here. Means the temperature at which we are finding a state, that temperature is between the melting and the boiling point. So this will be liquid. An explanation here that the minus 75 is the temperature between the melting and the boiling point. So minus 75 degrees is between the melting and the boiling point. That's why this substance is a liquid, like chlorine is liquid at this temperature. Explain in terms of structure and the bonding why the potassium chloride has a much higher melting point. Why you think that the potassium chloride is having a much higher melting point? So first thing, what kind of bonding it will have? It will have ionic bonding. That is first thing. And what happened in ionic bonding? In ionic bonding, there will be a strong electrostatic force between the oppositely charged ions. So oppositely charged ions, they have a very strong electrostatic force. That's why this substance will have a high melting point. And giant structure as well, giant lattice, that's right. Then we have this question is about the copper and its compound. As you can see, copper is having two different naturally occurring atoms. State the term which we use, which have the same. So we call them as isotopes. The term isotope means they have the same number of proton but different neutron. We have to complete a table. You will, for proton number, you will use a periodic table. In exam, the periodic table will be there because the proton number never changes. So the proton number is the identity. How to get the neutron number? You will subtract, like here, to get like copper, if it is 63 and 29, you will subtract 63 minus 29. And the other one is a copper 65. So you will subtract 65, you'll get 36. But the next one is a charge. So this one is a neutral atom, so it will have equal number of proton and electron. The other one is positively charged, means it has two less electrons or two electron being lost. So this will be 27. Then we need the average mass of the isotope. This question is a common one as well. Now you will find this repetition. How to work out the average mass of the isotope? The percentage of the isotope multiplied by its mass plus the percentage of the isotope multiplied by its mass divided by 100. So it will be 70 multiplied by 63 plus 30 multiplied by 65 divided by 100. And one decimal place we have to write. So what's the final answer? So 70 into 63 plus 30 into 65 divided by 100. And you can clearly see that the 70%, this is 70%. So definitely the average mass should be more towards 63 rather than 65. Like we have two numbers, one is 63, another one is 65. This is 70%, this is 30. So when we take an average mass, the average mass is more towards 63. If they were equal 50-50%, like example, say the same question was there and each is 50%, then what will be the average mass? So if both are equal, then the average mass will be in between them. What is the number in between them? So the average mass will be 64. So when they're equal percent, the average mass is same like a mean. But when they're not in equal percent, the average mass shifted towards the proportion which is having a greater percentage. This question is about element X, Y, and Z. An atom X is represented by a symbol 34 and 16. Name different types of particles found in the nucleus. So what we find protons and neutrons. What is the term for the total number of the particles in the nucleus? What we call that? Nucleon number. That's right. What is the total number of the particles in the nucleus? How many nucleons are there? 34. What is the electronic configuration for X ion? X atom is 16, but X ion negative charge -2 means how many because atom will have 16 proton and 16 electrons. But X ion will have, because 2 extra, so 16 proton and 18 electrons, so 2, 8 and 8. That's right. State the formula of a compound formed when aluminium combined with X. Aluminium valencies +3 and this X is -2. When we have valencies, we simplify first. It cannot be further simplified, then we cross multiply. So it will be Al2 and X3 will be there. In part B, what is the term used to describe the atoms of the same element with a different number of the particles in the nucleus? What we call? So these are isotopes. Identify the atom. Whenever we talk about the relative atomic mass, we compare it with the 12th part of a carbon-12. So because carbon isotope is there, there is carbon-14 as well. That's why you have to specify carbon-12. What is the name given to amount of substance which contains 6.02 exponent 23? So we call mole of a substance. And what is the specific name given to this? That is the Avogadro's constant. So this is topic 2.